All right, 30 minutes, 10 questions. Welcome to the Millionaire's Hot Seat, where we put the pressure on millionaires to get their best kept secrets, strategies, and insights to building a million and oftentimes multi-million-dollar business. My name is Melissa Krivachek, and I'm your host. For the next 30 minutes, you'll want to take notes so you can have more money, more clients, and more love, success, and happiness. Today, we have JP Maroney with us. JP, are you ready to take the hot seat?
I'm ready. I love hot seats. It's I was really excited to see that you called it that because I used to do hot seats at some of my events, so I love it.
Oh yeah, those are the best. So we all know mindset's the number one key to making millions. How do you keep your mind sharp, focused, and in the right space to accomplish your goals?
I think self-reflection is the biggest thing. I was talking to somebody about this a couple of days ago that there's a lot of power in writing things down. I have a quote that I don't even know who originally said this, but I often say that writing crystallizes thought and thought motivates action. But just the act of, writing something down, it allows you to think through the process of whatever it is that you're trying to solve, or if you're trying to get clarity. A lot of times, in fact, my wife and I were going over this the other day, talking about life goals and plans and all the areas of life that we have responsibilities. And in her journal, she had broken out these different categories of, homeschool. She homeschools our kids. She has an art business. She's an artist, a painter. And, she had all a social and all these different areas of life and setting goals. But we were talking about the power of how much that crystallized and gave clarity by being able to write that stuff down. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful tools that I've ever seen or used.
So you're not just talking about it. It's clearly behind you and you've got the marker in your hand.
It's funny because, people love this office because the whiteboard actually starts all the way around the corner, comes down a wall, down this wall, all the way down that wall. And then we have a video studio at the other end. But I'm big on writing stuff down. I do a lot of mind maps on MindMeister, which is mind mapping software. I love mind mapping. I'm a very nonlinear thinker, so maybe it's that entrepreneurial ADD or whatever, but I just like bing, 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 but it's nice to capture that and then be able to figure out which branches to hang it on later. And I love doing the same thing on whiteboards and just getting ideas down.
I'm the same way, but I actually do it in a sketch pad. Like, I'm not even an artist, but I sketch pad out every single thing. And this thing does not leave me.
Do you do it in different colors and stuff?
No, I don't actually. I buy the most ridiculously expensive pens, and people are like, why the hell do you need a $2,000 pen? And I'm like, listen, the pen has fantastic energy and I am in sales. If you do not have a good pen, like the pens from Walmart, don't do me justice. They just don't.
For sure. I'll have to show you before we finish the call. If I took it off my desk the other day, but I have to show you this pen. If you like pens, I bought a pen.
Oh my God, I love pens.
Yeah, and it's this wood, and they said it's from China, and it's in the water, and the water causes these things, and it's really a cool pen. But it's a fountain pen with the little, old style fountain tip on it. But yeah, anyway, very cool. I love pens too. I always, one of my secrets of selling, I learned many years ago, and I actually have a book. Remind me, Jesse, my videographer and video editor is here. But remind me, Jesse, later for us to pull out the content from selling from A to Z. I did this book years ago where I just ranted. I started with the letter A, attitude, B, belief, C, and I went confidence, but it was all around the idea of selling. Mm-hmm. And I created this entire piece of content, and I don't think we have it published anywhere on the internet. But in that, when I got to X, it was the power of the X. So putting an X on a contract. And I learned that years ago is you get the contract all filled out, you put an X and you turn it around and slide the pen over to the person, and then you shut up, and he or she who talks first loses.
Yes, it's true. So I always say, look, and I tell my significant other this all the time because he gives me a lot of shit about this pen. I go, if I set this pen in front of you and it says you are your own superhero on it, because that's what I got engraved on it, are you going to tell me you're not signing the contract? No, you're not.
Yep.
You're absolutely not.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. So, I got off your questions, but let's rock and roll.
Oh, it's cool. So when your mind wanders off, how do you reframe to get back on track? Let's say your dog dies, your child breaks their arm, something crazy happens in your life. What are you doing to reframe?
I have never been a big person on meditation, but over the last couple of years, I've picked up on it and done more of it. I like that as a reframing, recentering activity. I
Yeah.
think I overcomplicated it or didn't really understand it in the past, thinking that you had to, you had to do,
Yeah.
sit with your legs crossed and do but I'm a big fan of the show Billions and on Showtime with Damian Lewis and a great cast. But anyway, in that he meditates, and it's just a matter of, set a thing on your phone, sit in a dark place or a quiet place and just recenter yourself. I love that as an activity. Probably don't even do enough of it, but I love that as an activity for recentering. But at the end of the day, I think it's getting out, maybe going for a drive. I live on the river, going out on the dock where there's no distractions and stuff, but just finding a way to just kind of recenter. And I do have to say, going back, writing is such a big part of it for me. I know I said that already, but it is a big part of that recentering and getting clarity.
I think that's a big part for anybody that's successful. Like, I've written 10 books and I wrote those books to get all the shit out of my head. Like, let's face it, it was more for me than it was for anybody else. And anybody that I talk to has the same thing. So JP, how often do you listen to your inner voice, and how accurate has that been when it comes to making decisions?
At the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, business builder, that is your most powerful resource. But your inner voice is a sum total of your being, of what you've gathered. So your inner voice is a combination or a bunch of layers of the voices that you've listened to. That's one of the reasons I always say you got to get all of the negative people out of your life, all the negative influence out of your life, and allow yourself to only consume things that contribute to your growth and success and support what you're doing, because that inner voice is a sum total of those things. But I've years ago, I had a neighbor that she had Alzheimer's, and she was in the very early stages of Alzheimer's, and she had to quit her job, and she was very depressed, very, very frustrated by it, understandably. And she said something one day. She said, "I just feel useless. I just feel like, here she was a nurse. She had a professional career outside the home, and she derived probably a lot of her identity from that, and certainly a lot of her fulfillment and feeling like she was worthwhile. And she said, "I just feel worthless." And I stopped her and I said, "Mary, be careful what you say to yourself. You just might start believing it." And that inner voice is what we say to ourselves is significantly important. And then I don't even remember what your questions are, but you might have a question about what voices you listen to that are not your own. But the inner voice is super powerful. There was a book I read years ago called something about so it was called Self-Talk, what the power of what you say to yourself. And that was a very powerful book. It had a big effect on my life, but I've thought about it a lot. And definitely what you say to yourself, if you began repeating those things over and over again, your mind cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. Okay, that's why fear works so well. It's such a powerful, it can get your pulse up, it can make you sweat. It can literally cause biological changes. Fear can, that adrenaline. And that's because the mind doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. And so if you begin to tell yourself things over and over again, good or bad, you begin to believe them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like, I've had friends, they're like, "Oh, I wish I had a better car." And then suddenly they're in a car accident. I'm like, "You wish that on yourself." And they're like, "How do you figure?" I'm like, "No, I know you did." But like, it's the same with poverty. If it's the same with becoming a millionaire, it's the same no matter what way you look at it. So you can become extremely healthy if you are focused your intentions on that. But JP, we've all heard your network is your net worth. How do you choose your inner circle? Like, what qualities or characteristics are you looking for when you bring people into your inner circle?
I said something recently on what we call Instarants. It's those short 1 minute videos we put out on Instagram. I said something about that, the quality of the people, how they affect who you are. And in business, what I said was, I try to be the dumbest guy in the room. Mm-hmm. And, I don't need any ego stroking. Like, about how much I know, or I need people to tell me things that I don't know, and to see things I don't see, and to be able to help me see around the corner. I heard Jack Welch use that phrase the other day. I love that phrase, seeing around the corner. Great entrepreneurs, great CEOs that are able to see around the corner and figure out what's coming so that they can position themselves appropriately to make the most of those moments. And one of the ways that you do that is by getting yourself surrounded with people that can provide you with insight, that can see things from a different perspective, that have a different framework, a different set of knowledge or skill. And the sum total of that is what makes you successful in business or in life. I have a thing I teach and talk about often. It's called the law of emotional gravity. The law of emotional gravity is that one negative person can pull down 5 positive people, but 5 positive people can't pull one negative person up. And so part of surrounding yourself is, yes, get quality people that support and are congruent and are complementary, but also making sure that you remove all of the negative influences as well.
I love that. So mastermind of similar people is significant. How often do you meet with your inner circle, and what do you discuss? Is it strictly business, or is it kids, business, all kinds of other stuff?
That's kind of 2 questions. My life in general, when you think, I hear people talk about balance and work-life balance, and I think that is a farce. I don't even know what that would look like.
Yeah, me neither.
And I think it's a unicorn. You're just kind of, well, I can't say that, it's like a unicorn, because then my 12-year-old would say, but unicorns are real. But it's like chasing something, just over the edge, a mirage or something that you never get. Work-life balance. I tell people I like work-life blend, meaning that it intersects. People that are around me know that even though we maintain a space at an office building, 99% of the time I'm in my home office, and we've got team all around the world in over 13 time zones, so we're everywhere. But my kids come and go. I was on with one of my managers yesterday, and we have a standard poodle, and he came in, so like there's a blend of family and all of that in and around work. And at the same time, there's times when I'm with family and I say, hey, I got to step away and make a call. I got to deal with this. So it happens. But when you're talking about your inner circle, to me, it's a part of cadence. So there's some people I meet with weekly. There's some people that's infrequent. There's a guy, one of our investors, that he's really, really brilliant business guy, semi-retired. And we get on the phone about once a quarter, once every couple of months. And every time I talk to the guy, he always says he learned something from me, but I learned something from him. And every time, and just little tweaks and insights, figuring out how to turn the knobs. But I think everybody has to figure out that cadence for themselves of how often or when you'd meet.
Right. And everybody has a completely different standard on that. Some people are like, I work Monday through Friday. Don't bother to call me on Saturday or Sunday. I work Monday through Saturday, and don't bother to call me on Sunday. I will respond on Monday, but Sunday is absolutely family time. And I just don't, unless it's, we're in the middle of an event or something crazy, I just don't answer on Sunday. So the more you hang around successful people, the more successful you become. What habits have you developed other than drinking coffee on a daily basis that increase your productivity?
Does drinking espresso count as a different one, or is that just all in the same?
I don't know. I just assumed coffee was in the cup.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Like some of those judges that have something clear in their cup. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's coffee. It's funny because there's coffee and then there's coffee. So I actually have the refill sitting there waiting. But oh man, surrounding yourself with good people. Something that I learned that's a habit that has never failed me is reading. Not just reading, because I read lots of self-help, or like if I'm trying to learn something, I'll try to find every book I can on that topic and pick the best ones. But reading biographies, that has been so powerful for me, because if you read a self-help book, listen, I've written them. So if you read a self-help book, when I mean by that, a big broad term, but a how-to book or an improvement book, you're going to get somebody's list of 12 or 10 or 50 or whatever. And that's fine. But there's always posturing and layering and things that are packaged in with that. When you read a biography and you hear about how somebody truly dealt with something in the trenches, like they went up against this and it changed their life or whatever. That is so powerful for me. I relate to it very well because it's, to me, it's real and it's authentic. And I didn't go to college. I got out of high school, started my first business at 19. So I don't have frames of reference about textbooks or certain professors or something that gave me some guidance or mentoring. I learned it by finding good mentors, either physically that I could talk to and learn from, and I've done that over the years, but also mentors virtually through books, and learning from them. I often say that one of the things as an entrepreneur that you can do is form a virtual board of directors and go find the best people that have done what you want to do or something related to it. And it can even be people who are dead, but people who have written books, biography, either been, someone's written about them or they've written a biography, and go and put them in a virtual board of directors, consume all their content about them and their stories and how they dealt with the setbacks and frustrations. And then when you're looking for answers, that reflection you were talking about, that self-talk, remember those layers? So those people become like these layers that help you find the answers that you're looking for. And it's, you can almost say, what would Andrew Carnegie do here? What would Richard Branson do in this instant? How would he react in this instance? And that has served me very well. So reading the biographies is a huge one.
I actually do not read biographies that often, but I do documentaries.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Practically the same thing, two completely different.
Have you seen the one on Prime? I know it's very sexist, but this is the way the world was then, but it's called The Men Who Built America.
I have seen every single one of those, and I love every single one of those. Yes.
I'm watching them right now, and my 12-year-old daughter's been watching them. She's very entrepreneurial. She just started a web-based business called Mersoles. Give a shout out to her. She just started her Instagram and mermaid stuff. So she's starting a business. She's going to be an affiliate, initially selling stuff online, mermaid stuff. But anyway, she's been watching that with me, and same thing, you just learn from, I was watching in the first, second, third episode, I don't know, where, Rockefeller is trying to make that decision of how he's going to grow his oil refinery business. And then, he's looking at the kerosene, and then he's, boom, pipeline. Like, screw the railroads, go build a freaking pipeline. Okay, so think about that in business. That's distribution, right? So if anyone that watches that kind of thing, and you're sitting in your virtual boardroom with your virtual CEOs or virtual board members, and John D. Rockefeller sitting there, and you're trying to figure out how to increase distribution in your business, and all of a sudden you go, you know what, we should really look at what are alternative sources of distribution for us that would give us new channels that are completely outside of our existing vendors, et cetera. Like that one frame could completely blow up a business.
Yeah, so the thing that I actually got from that series was how they were selling steel. So it was really difficult for them to sell steel. And they ended up building the bridge across the Mississippi. Have you seen this part yet?
No, I haven't gotten to that yet.
No.
Thanks for spoiling it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I didn't spoil it yet, but I would. I don't know if I should tell you this or not.
We'll leave that as a cliffhanger, and then all your audience will go buy a Prime.
Yeah, you gotta go watch the rest of the show.
The Men Who Built America.
There we go. All right. So JP, money and fulfillment are things ultimately everyone wants. They're also things that make businesses drive. What is driving you? It seems that your kids probably have something to do with this.
I have a 3-part mission statement.
Okay.
And you'll see it on my memes and stuff in social, but you'll see it on a lot of stuff. But it's make money, make memories, make a difference. Those 3 things. Everything that I do can be hung on one of those. Money, as you said, it's what makes the things happen. The machine runs on money. I was raised in an interesting religious background, and people misinterpreted that statement, that scripture about the love of money is the root of all evil.
Oh, yeah,
a lot of people interpreted it as money is the root of all evil. And so you hear people make statements about, oh, well, they're rich and now they're divorced. Well, there's a lot of poor people that are divorced too, or broke people.
Yeah.
So Anyway, you can believe what you want. You can frame it how you want. But when I look at my 3-part mission statement, it starts with making money, because you have to have that to make the machine run, to be able to do the things you want to do for yourself, for your family, for the causes that are important to you. All of that is important. So you have to have money. And so make money is a key. Making memories is the second. And you're right. My daughters and my wife, I have 3 daughters and I have my wife. And I often tell people, I got married to spend time with this woman. I had kids because I wanted to have a family and enjoy that time. And so there's times, my kids will tell you, there's times when dad is freaking not available right this minute because his head's down in the business. But I do spend a lot of time with my kids, and like last weekend we made the little soapbox cars or whatever, the Boy Scouts have done that historically, but their Girl Scout troop did that this year. And so we got out there in the garage and we made cars, and I bought a Dremel, and they were, so spending time with them, making memories. And making memories can be expensive stuff like taking big trips, but it can be as simple as going for a walk or going to the beach or wherever you are going out and pushing somebody in the swing in the backyard. Or if you're a couple and you have no money, and by the way, Tanya and I have been there multiple times in our life where we had no money whatsoever, and there are ways to go and grab a picnic, some sandwiches, a loaf of bread, whatever, and go to a park.
Totally done that too.
Person that's important. So it starts with making memories is all about, I think that's why we're here. I think that there's, and the third part of it is part of why we're here, but part of why we're here, if you want some frame or reason of why you exist, part of it is to create memories, lifelong memories with those that matter to you and those that you care about. So that's really important. And the third is to make a difference. And part of that is leaving a legacy. So you mentioned writing 10 books. Part of that is taking what you've learned, what you've experienced, and getting it down in audio, video, print, whatever it is, so that somebody can learn from it. So that at least in your own heart, you can say, there was some reason I went through all of this crap, and it was not just for myself, but maybe 5 or 10 or 5,000 or 5 million people also benefit and learn from that as well, and their lives are better. So leaving a legacy is super critical and important part of making a difference. But it doesn't have to all be about legacy. Making a difference can be in your day-to-day life of growing a business. Like if you're creating a product or service that solves a problem in the marketplace, that is making a difference in the lives of people. And I actually think that's a better way to build a business, is to start from a very customer-centric approach, where you're looking for a problem and going out and solving that problem, and you're mission-driven to create a solution to a problem. The money comes. If you find a market that's in pain and you provide a solution to them and they have money and the willingness to part with that money, the money will come, I promise. But it's a matter of finding that need, or that, it's not even need, finding that pain, that frustration, that want, that desire, and feeling that. And that is part of making a difference. But looking at that, make money, make memories, make a difference. I heard someone talking the other day about once you get to a certain level, and I agree with this, once you get to a certain level from an income perspective or a wealth perspective, money becomes more about keeping score. So like a guy that has $10 million in the bank doesn't really need to make another $1 million in order to eat lunch tomorrow, right?
Right.
So it's not about that. It's not about survival anymore. Then it's about keeping score. So the money at least is some quantifiable, measurable goal that you can achieve, and at least, hopefully you're doing something with that money for your family. I'm not one of these people that, oh, we got to give it all away. Do for your family, use it to make memories, use it to do the things that are important, but also be able to give to the causes that are important to you, be able to maybe reinvest in other entrepreneurs that are building their companies and that sort of thing. But it's all three of those: make money, make memories, and make a difference.
I totally agree with you. So how much of your life is outsourced?
Meaning how much of my life do I have other people doing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like do people do your laundry, cooking, dishes, cleaning? Obviously you have kids that are the age that they would be happy to do those things, hopefully. Or
in that respect, it's a mix. Like on the weekends, my 20-year-old is responsible for the kitchen. So she's still at home. She's in college. She's a junior. The 12 and 7 have a list of chores and they're responsible for and that sort of thing. But yeah, we have help and in domestic and also in the business as well. I've always looked at it this way. If you figure out what your value of your time is, and you can find someone to take some piece of it and do it at a pay that's less than what your time, what you can bill your time or what you can generate in terms of income, then that's an ROI. You know, that's a value add and it's not a luxury. So if you can find somebody for 10 or 15 or 20 or $25 or whatever that is in your area to do things, let's say they even run errands, like we all buy crap, right, on Amazon and all that, and then you got to do the returns. But, you know, some of that stuff takes time or whatever. But if you had somebody that took that and you set, now you can't, if you're just taking that time and doing relaxed things, that's quality of life, right? It is a luxury. But if you could take that time and put it into making one more call, finding one more prospect, having one more meeting, whatever it is to help amp up your business, then that's an investment that's going to produce an ROI. And I look for those in all areas of my life. It wasn't the 4-hour work week that first got me started on that. I did it years ago, but it was, Tim Ferriss did have a profound impact on me thinking about all the other things that you can outsource. And now with technology, certainly Upwork and Fiverr and all these things, you can really get some crazy stuff outsourced. And we do a lot of it, certainly.
It's funny because like when I first started outsourcing in my business, the first thing I did was I got a personal assistant and she like takes my luggage everywhere. She like picks up the gifts, makes sure the mail's gotten, like all the little things. But I went through my day-to-day for probably a month and a half, just writing down like what I need to get rid of. Like, why am I doing this task? Why am I going to the mailbox every day to get the mail, to see bills that then I would have to pay? Like, why isn't somebody else doing that? Because that's just tedious work. So when you can automate something or delegate it, I think you should, but you got to start small. You can't start with like, let's hire the whole farm.
You said the right thing, and start with something small. Like, and I haven't done this in a while. Probably shouldn't tell people that I did this before, but I used to have somebody that logged into my Facebook and wished everybody happy birthday. And it was actually a Filipino. And I was paying him like $2 or $3 an hour. It was a crazy number. It was a really young kid in the Philippines. And he was like 17, 18 years old. And he was making a couple of $3 an hour or whatever, which is not horrible there. It's not great pay by any measure, but it's not horrible there. But he was going in and going and doing all my happy birthdays to everybody on Facebook. And I haven't been doing that in probably 5-6 years, which is why nobody ever gets a happy birthday from me. But you know, that was a little thing that didn't cost a lot of money. So I often tell people, if you're going to outsource, experiment with something that's very small and controlled, you know, 5 hours a week or something that you could get somebody doing and get a feel for what that feels like to offload that. One of the mistakes entrepreneurs make, I've made it, is a lot of times we try to offload something, but we don't give good detail of what we want and how we want it done. And then we're disappointed with the result. And we only have ourselves to blame for that. So if you're going to outsource, if you're going to offload, if you're going to hire, whatever, make sure that you've done the job first and you've documented it, what we call a standard operating procedure or a set of steps. And that way, at least that person has some place to start and something to follow.
Yeah, it's funny, JP, because I was having a conversation yesterday with an entrepreneur who does fairly well, mid-6 figures, and she was saying how her and her husband are now stepping out of the business and giving more direction to their employees. And I said, well, her struggle is that she can't find somebody to replicate her. And I said, well, look, like, you're very OCD. You're trying to hire people that are not OCD and detailed. You cannot like learn OCD details. You can only hire OCD details. So instead of trying to teach your current employees, you're going to have to spend a lot more effort and energy going out into the marketplace to find somebody that's detailed than to try to train somebody to be detailed.
That, and let me, can I add a little something to that?
Sure.
So I think the hardest, in my opinion, the hardest thing to outsource is sales.
Yes.
And I've seen this. So I tried to do it myself. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs over the years try, like they're growing, and that's the thing they try to outsource. They've been doing all the sales in their business, and then they go, I want to grow. I need to get somebody in here and get them selling. I think that's a huge mistake. It's so much easier to get people to do the stuff around you. So if you can think of yourself, if you're the right now in your business, if you're the one that closes the majority of the sales, but you're tapping out and hitting a glass ceiling on what you can achieve from a revenue perspective, I recommend looking at yourself like a doctor, because we've all been to the doctor. Yeah. When you go to the doctor, somebody else calls you or you call them, and somebody else answers the phone, books the appointment. When you get there, someone else gives you the chart and has you fill out the information. Someone else shows you back to the room. Someone else takes your vital signs, right? And sometimes someone can even come in and do some of the exam part of it or whatever. And maybe even some of the work, like if it's a broken leg, somebody else might do the wrapping of the cast or whatever. Look at your business like that, because that doctor comes in and they're there 5, 10, 15 minutes. We all gripe about it. But the fact is that they're making the highest use of their time. And so if you can, in your own business, number one, try to use automation and tools in pre-selling. If you're trying to sell something in your business, you're the salesperson, try to create marketing funnels, which just for people that don't know what a funnel is, it's just a sales process online that moves people through a set of videos, information, PDFs, articles, whatever, that helps support the process and gets as many of the questions and objections out of the way in advance, so that by the time you get to that person, it's a fairly easy sell. You're only dealing with the highest level of prospects. But the other thing is to get people surrounding you to do all of the other stuff, if possible. Get them to make those initial phone calls or receive those initial phone calls. Get them to do an initial screening with a 21-point checklist to ask questions and gather information and all that. Set the hurdle for that prospect to jump over, so that by the time they get to you, you're spending a fourth or a tenth of the amount of time that you would normally spend closing, as well as all of the support stuff that happens before the sale and after the sale, right? Customer onboarding and all that kind of stuff that happens. If you outsource that and you continue to be the face or the front man or woman for the business and do the closing, that is so much, in my opinion, that's such a higher value, and it's more realistic for someone to grow as the next level. So maybe you've hit $500,000 or $1 million in sales in your business and you're tapping out. The way to get to your next second or third or fourth million in sales is to first create that support system and allow you to escalate to only selling to the highest quality prospects.
Yeah, I think a lot of people sell high ticket items to broke people, and then they realize that they're messing with people who can't make decisions and therefore can't write checks. And then it becomes an ongoing issue.
There are a lot of people in life who can say no. There's only a handful of people in life who can actually say yes. And you got to go find those people.
Yes, absolutely. So final question, what is the number one thing you would tell people to stop doing today that could dramatically change and impact their life?
I should have been ready for this question. I know you sent me the questions in advance.
Yeah, you're one of
there's a lot of things. And so picking one thing. Okay. So what's the one thing? The one thing is the one thing. How about that? So the one thing that everybody should be doing is figure out what the one thing is that you should be doing. And I know that sounds like circling back and talking in circles, but there's a great book, you've probably read it, called The One Thing.
One Thing.
Right? And that book was written by the guy that started Keller Williams, or was a partner, whatever, the guy that created Keller Williams Real Estate, right? But the thing I really liked about that book was the idea of the domino effect, and figuring out what is the one thing you could do that if you were to push that domino, a little domino over, it could trigger other dominoes. And so like the example I gave a few minutes ago of surrounding yourself with a support system so that you can be the most effective in selling. And maybe that is or isn't your highest use in your business. We don't know yet. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
But I would definitely figure out what is the one area in your business where you bring the most value, and then figure out all the other stuff that you're doing. You got to do it. The reality is you have to do it for right now. But while you're doing it, document what you're doing to get it done, and as quickly as humanly possible, offload those repeatable things to someone else and focus on your one thing.
Where can people find you, JP?
I have a personal website blog at jpmaroney.com, jpmaroney.com. You can find me in almost every social platform at JP Maroney or JP Maroney, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. Just you can search JP Maroney. You can Google JP Maroney on the web. But yeah, and I don't know, we didn't really talk, people can go there. They can find lots of articles and stuff. If you want, I could give your audience something free as well.
Sure, go ahead.
So if you go to jpmaroney.com/free, and I started loading up a bundle of stuff, and it's already got several things in there of some of my best training, interviews I've conducted, interviews I've done with other people, and we're going to continue to load that up. Here's a belief I have in life. It's fundamental belief, and it's the more you give, the more you get. Yeah. But you got to give before you get. That's law. And so I practice that in our business. If you go to jpmaroney.com/free, we're going to give and give and give and give. Someday, if you give back to us, you introduce me to somebody, you buy a product, you invest in one of our businesses, whatever it is, that's great. But we're going to give first.
I love that. And I think that's fundamental to success. So it was great to have you in the hot seat. You brought tons of actionable items and gold nuggets for our listeners to take away. You guys can find me at melissakrivachek.com, or you can learn about the Ultimate Sales Summit at theultimatesalessummit.com. Until we speak again, take care.